This is a forgotten TV focus on composer Lalo Schifrin, part of a consideration of the 1971 TV movie Earth 2, coming soon to this podcast feed. I am your host, Chris Cooling. The score for Earth 2 was composed by an immensely talented and prolific individual of whom it could be said scored the 1960s and 70s, providing over 100 TV and film scores and themes over his career. Argentinian pianist, composer, and conductor Lalo Schifrin. Born Boris Claudio Schifrin in 1932, Buenos Aires, to a religiously mixed home with a Jewish father and Catholic mother, he grew up exposed to both religions. His father, Luis, was the concertmaster of the Philharmonic Orchestra of Buenos Aires at the Teatro Colón for some 35 years. Growing up, the nickname Lalo, derived from his middle name Claudio, stuck. When Lalo was 6 years old, his father arranged for him to begin studying piano with Enrique Barenboim, father of celebrated pianist-conductor Daniel Barenboim. While a young boy, he would attend movies at the local cinema and soon realized the importance music played to the theatrical experience. One weekend, the film playing was Dracula, which was the topic of discussion the following Monday at school. During a recess, I told my classmates about my experience. In my opinion, without the music, the film would not have been so scary. Entering his teens, he continued his piano studies with Russian expatriate and former head of the Kiev Conservatory, Andreas Karalis. Not surprisingly, Schifrin did not listen to much popular music growing up, not even the popular tango. In my house, it was Schubert and Beethoven. You couldn't ignore tango, of course, but I didn't start to pay attention to tango composers Piazzolla and Salgan until I started paying attention to composers like Bartók and to jazz. Yes, while a student at Colegio Nacional High School, friends would expose him to jazz records, a style of music forbidden by Juan Perón's authoritarian regime, leading him to bribe an American merchant marine to smuggle them into the country, and to learn how to conceal his absurd contraband. I was breaking the law. Even in the summer, I had to put on an overcoat and put the records under the belly and covered them with my belt. Although studying sociology and law during his 4 years at university, it was music that was his true passion. Winning a scholarship to the Paris Conservatory in the early 1950s, he studied with French composers Charles Queclon and Olivier Messiaen. He soon found himself studying serious music by day while playing jazz in the clubs at night. And in 1955, he represented Argentina in the Paris International Jazz Festival. Returning to Buenos Aires and with Perón deposed, he started a 16-piece, Basie-style jazz band, the first of its kind in Argentina. As he later told the LA Times, a quartet would have flopped, but nobody had heard a live band with 4 trumpets and 4 trombones. The intellectuals found in our music catalytic elements for whatever they were interested in. His band was featured on a popular weekly variety TV show. Around this time, he began studying film directing, not because he wanted to direct films, but because he had always wanted to write music for them, and felt understanding film direction would give him an advantage in this field. Sure enough, he began finding work for Argentinian radio, TV, and film, working on some 20 films whose titles are perhaps lost to time. But one of them, for filmmaker Fernando Ayala, won him the equivalent of an Oscar for 1958's El Jefe. Eventually, none other than Dizzy Gillespie was in Buenos Aires. Accounts differ as to whether Gillespie was in Schifrin's audience or the other way around, and at least one article had them meeting in Paris, But in any case, he connected with the jazz great, who recruited him to write music. And Schifrin delivered the 5-movement Gillespiana in 1958. Moving to New York City, he joined Gillespie's quintet as pianist, recording Gillespiana and writing a second composition, The New Continent. In New York, hanging out having cocktails at Basin Street East or the Hickory House, the handsome Lalo looked very much the part of the coolest hep cat around, with his striped button-up shirt, sunglasses, and pipe. Soon he was touring the world, playing with greats Count Basie, Ella Fitzgerald, and Miles Davis. The 1960s saw Schifrin win his first Grammy for music arrangement for the Jimmy Smith album, The Cat. And his second Grammy was for composing the Paul Horn album, Jazz Suite on the Mass Texts. A mutual friend introduced him to producer Ivan Tors, who asked Schifrin to score his new film. 1963 had Schifrin moving to Los Angeles to sign a contract with MGM, and his music was heard on the African adventure picture Rhino. After composing music for films The Cincinnati Kid with Steve McQueen, The Liquidator with Rod Taylor, and surfing documentary Gone with the Wave, Schifrin was contacted to work on non-MGM TV projects. The first of these being the Jack Klugman sitcom, Harris Against the World. The word got around that I was fast and reliable and delivered a good product. Work started coming fast and furious. The 1966 spy thriller Blue Light.
Long before Hitler turned the world to flames, American correspondent David March fled to Germany, posing as a traitor to his own country. Accepted by the Nazi high command, March worked as a double agent to destroy the Third Reich from within, under the code name Blue Light.
Private Eye series The Cat with Robert Loggia.
The Cat.
Unlike these nearly forgotten TV themes, his next assignment would follow him for the rest of his career and become one of the most recognizable pieces of music ever composed for television. This mission was given him by writer-producer Bruce Geller. Schifrin was invited to Desilu Studios to watch scenes being filmed for a TV pilot. But filming is typically not done in a linear order. And without being given a script, all Schifrin was able to deduce was that the series would be about some type of covert operatives. With little direction given, Schifrin's first piece, a military march he called The Plot, didn't quite cut it for the main theme, but would end up often being used during series episodes. Having rejected the first title credit sequence draft, there were no visuals for Geller to show him. Instead, Schifrin was told the show intro would likely begin with the image of a fuse being lit by a match, saying, "I want you to write something that will get people's attention. Make it sound like a promise that there's going to be a little bit of action. Like when they're in the kitchen having a soft drink and the television set is on in the living room, they'll hear it and say, 'Oh, Mission Impossible is on.'" This track was appropriately called Burning Fuse. Instead of the more common 3 to 4 beats per measure, it was written in an unusual off-kilter quintuple meter with a 5/4 time signature, which gives the piece a continual tension. You'll note the now iconic too long, too short rhythmic motif heard throughout the theme is a direct representation of the Morse code for the letters M and I, which of course stood for Mission Impossible. As he told The Independent in 2018, Schifrin realized his first attempt was the wrong approach.
I knew what I had to write. I understood it had to be like a call to the viewers to watch. What I needed to compose was like a logo for Mission Impossible. I sat at my desk and wrote that theme in exactly 1.5 minutes. It was not inspiration. It was a need to do it. It was my own little Mission Impossible. The whole thing, including the chorus, the bongos, everything you hear, took me maybe 3 minutes. I was creating sound of impossible missions and making them swing. I didn't know it was going to be so successful.
And successful it was. Released as an instrumental single, it peaked at number 41 on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 and number 19 on the Adult Contemporary chart, selling more than 500,000 copies in the U.S. Schifrin won 2 Grammy Awards for his work on Mission Impossible, Best Instrumental Theme and Best Original Score for a Motion Picture or TV Show. The following year, Schifrin was pursued again by Geller to provide a theme for his new Private Eye series for CBS. Starring Mike Connors, the show was initially about a private detective working for a firm called Intertect that used massive banks of computers to aid in solving cases. For this theme, Geller told Schifrin he had heard a jazz tune on the radio, similar to what he was looking for. Schifrin lit up when Geller tried to hum it, and immediately knew what Geller was looking for. But for this project, Geller already had an intro edited and ready to go. A multiple split-screen approach with various squares that show Connor in action, until 3 colored panels boldly state, in a modern lowercase slab serif typeface, Mike Connors is, followed by the Intertect computer spitting out a punch card that read, Mannix. Although episode scoring was taken over by other talents, Schifrin wrote a full score for the debut episode, along with 7 more over the 8 seasons the show ran. More TV work came along. 1969's Medical Center, for which he used a Moog synthesizer to emulate an ambulance siren, earning a special commendation from the head of CBS. The 1970 ABC legal drama, The Young Lawyers. The 1974 CBS series, Planet of the Apes, with its primitive horn, drum, and string-heavy theme, was a callback to Jerry Goldsmith's original 1968 film score. The 1974 NBC legal drama, Petrocelli, starring Barry Newman, practicing law in a sleepy city in Arizona. The first theme used on ABC police action series, Starsky and Hutch. The 1975 CBS police drama, Bronk, with Jack Palance. The 1976 ABC crime drama, Most Wanted, with Robert Stack. All of this TV work is in addition to the numerous films Schifrin composed music for, which, just as a rapid-fire overview, include Cool Hand Luke, 1967, Bullet, 1968, Pretty Maids All in a Row, THX 1138, and Dirty Harry, all from 1971. Enter the Dragon, Magnum Force, 1973. Disney's Return from Witch Mountain and The Cat from Outer Space, both from 1978. The Amityville Horror, 1979. From 1983, Dr. Detroit, The Osterman Weekend, and Sudden Impact. Black Moon Rising, 1986. The Deadpool, 1988. Schifrin's music continued to be heard into the 1990s and beyond, with Rush Hour and its two sequels. And of course, Schifrin's Mission Impossible theme has been heard on the 8 feature film adaptations that started in 1996. Director Brian De Palma originally wanted composer John Williams for the first film, who wanted to deliver his own original score. De Palma thought twice and instead hired Danny Elfman to do a techno makeover of Schifrin's original theme, performed by U2's Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen. But there's one more tidbit from film and TV history that left Schifrin's indelible mark on our popular culture. In 1965, news director Al Primo at Westinghouse Philadelphia affiliate KYW-TV began jazzing up the news format by using flashier opening graphics and using John Barry's music track known as 007 Takes the Lecter from 1963's Dr. No as a musical intro. 3 years later, he moved to New York City to work at network flagship station WABC. There, he also performed a makeover of their local news into what became known as the eyewitness news concept. Moving away from a stodgy man-on-camera reading news stories, eyewitness news would emphasize filmed segments combined with live reporters in the field, serving as the eyewitness to a news event. News anchors back at the studio became personalities, engaging in banter or happy talk, and giving their own comments between news stories. But this time, Primo licensed a different movie theme, one originally written for a scene about an hour into a Southern drama released the prior year, with its nervous rhythms, staccato punctuations, and suspended brass chords. So, the Tar sequence from 1967's Cool Hand Luke was reborn as the Eyewitness News theme, heard on most of ABC's major market stations every night for some 20 years. It was so successful that motifs from this original theme live on in news music packages still used nationwide. Outside of film and TV, Schifrin has over 60 credits in the classical composition field. He has conducted numerous orchestras around the world, including London Symphony Orchestra, the London Philharmonic, the Vienna Symphony, the Los Angeles Philharmonic, the National Symphony Orchestra of Argentina, the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, and the Lincoln Center Chamber Orchestra. In 1987, some of the best musicians in France formed the Paris Philharmonic Orchestra for the purpose of recording music for films and performing concerts. They appointed Lalo Schifrin as musical director, and he held this post for 5 years before resigning to spend more time composing. He has composed the overture for the 1987 and 1995 Pan American Games, as well as the grand finale for the 1990 concert celebrating the finals of the World Cup Soccer Championship. In this concert, the three tenors, Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, and Jose Carreras, sang together for the first time. I could go on with literal pages of his releases, accomplishments, and accolades, which would take me an additional 17 minutes to read. During writing of this podcast, it was announced Lalo Schifrin died at a Los Angeles hospital from complications of pneumonia on June 26, 2025. He was 93. Over the course of his career, Lalo Schifrin was nominated for 22 Grammys, winning 5, nominated for 4 Primetime Emmys and 6 Academy Awards. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and in 2018 received an honorary Oscar for his contributions to the art of film scoring. Accepting the award, he said,
"Composing for movies has given me a lifetime of joy and creativity. Receiving this honorary Oscar is a culmination of a dream. It is a mission accomplished."
Forgotten TV is brought to you by executive producers Joshua Driscoll, Doc Pinko, K.L. Young, Kenny Siegel, and Tony Cook. With producers Julio Capa, Ron Sorrell, Trevor Pearson, Tim Yabo, Lee Goldberg, and James Bellinger. And of course, thanks to all who support at the $1 to $3 levels on Patreon. Link in the show notes. And make it your mission, should you choose to accept it, to check out the new Forgotten TV merch store at Fourth Wall. Link in the show notes. Forgotten TV is not affiliated with or authorized by CBS, Desilu Productions, Paramount Television, Dot Records, Warner Brothers, or any production company, network, or music studio involved in the making of any TV show, film, or album mentioned in this podcast. Links to Amazon are affiliate, and as an Amazon associate, Forgotten TV earns royalties from qualifying purchases made. All characters, films, and series mentioned are the property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended. Audio clips included are for the purposes of historical context, review, commentary, and criticism only, and are not intended to infringe. This podcast is copyright 2025 Forgotten TV Media. The views and opinions expressed by guests and quoted sources are their own and may not reflect the opinion of Forgotten TV Media, its patrons, or any future sponsors. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. Information presented is based on a combination of interviews, period news media, books and magazine articles, and high-quality online sources. While reasonable effort has been made to include only factual information, Forgotten TV Media cannot guarantee the accuracy of every detail included and makes no representations or warranties for the content in this podcast and cannot be held liable for errors or omissions. And I'd like to thank the following YouTube channels for making some of that audio possible: Lalo Schifrin Topic, Richardo Marana, Duke Ellington Vivo, Profalope, Dizzy Gillespie Topic, Jimmy Smith Topic, Paul Horn Topic, Fishman, Quirky Films, Get Tarzan, Dominic Hauser Topic, Yena Audio, Warner Brothers Classics, Lee Goldberg, Thorgak, David Gideon, 11DB11, Luis Blanco Silva, The Scott Vincent Archive, I Am Palum Caraba, Nigno65, Rodrigo Serrano. Sources of quotes and background information came from the following: the Television Academy Foundation interviews, Lalo Schifrin from Mission Impossible to Jazz from NPR Music, Remembering Lalo Schifrin, Telehell podcast with Justin Hart, the books, Music Composition for Film and Television by Lalo Schifrin, Crime and Spy Jazz on Screen, 1950 to 1970 by Derek Bang, the articles To Him, Music is the Great Unifier by Elisa Valdez Rodriguez, LA Times, 1999. The story behind the iconic Mission Impossible theme tune by Martin Chilton, The Independent. Lalo Schifrin Swings by Greg Burke, LA Weekly. Thank you for listening. See you over at the new website found at forgotten.tv. I'm your writer, producer, and host, Chris Cooling, and this has been Forgotten TV.